Well, we got some news from probably the most realistic open Eagles player that has spilled the guts of what happened with this team last year. And Britton Covey kind of spilled the beans on a lot of things. Lane Johnson spilled the beans on a couple things as well, and kind of want to go through that. Um, are the Eagles doing the right thing this year? Are they fixing the right problems? Is this more than just changing so much of the coaching staff to the roster? Is it a bigger problem than what it is? We're going to find out, but I thought this was very interesting.
We better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Well, this news came out from Chase Sr. that runs the Eagles Now YouTube channel and had an interview with Britton Covey. And this was actually a really good interview because a lot was said here. So shout out to Chase for getting this interview out there, because I think a lot of Eagle fans have been trying to figure out, like, what was the real reason, what happened behind the scenes. There was a quote and some things talked about by Britton Covey on what went wrong with the season last year. And Britton Covey says, quote unquote, "I definitely think we got emotionally tired trying to figure out what the problem was. There was some miscommunication from coaches to players. There was some pointing fingers from player to player. And there was letting outside voices impact our love for the game and the happiness we had. All that combined kind of made us spiral." And I could totally believe that. Lane Johnson even said at an interview as well that, that the 49ers, I guess, broke, the Philadelphia Eagles, which that was kind of the starting point. I felt like something really happened between the Bills game to the, really to the 49ers game. The start of the 49ers game, even pregame, Bradbury, the 49ers are, the players are going through the practice and kind of bullying Bradbury a little bit. No players were defending him. No players were defending James Bradbury, and kind of just like, dude, like, they're pushing you around, at the link. And really, by the time, Big Dom got into his little hissy fit on the sideline, it just seemed like it was too late. The Eagles realized that they were in a fight, but man, I've never seen a team get mentally beaten so bad, especially somebody walking into your house like that. And that was just the start of the downfall when you were really 10-1 with 2 games up in the conference. You blow away the first seed, second seed, and the division, and you still had a playoff game and still didn't show any fight or any, the coaches didn't show any change. So if the players are this down bad when it comes to mentality, then where are these coaches? Where are the coaches that are going to fit into helping these players kind of get out of this mess? And it just seemed like it just didn't happen. Okay. We were trying to figure it out, but at this point, I think the Eagles were very good at hiding things when it came to if players were pointing fingers, and Covey is saying this, and I totally believe it. I mean, I would think that there would be some type of finger pointing going on. We've seen everything that happened on the sideline. Kelsey throughout, even Jason Kelsey earlier in the season waving his hands around at the coaches, and there was just so many weird things going on. Like little if teammates are talking to each other on the sideline trying to figure something out, that's perfectly fine. But when coaches get involved nonstop, and it's just showing way too much like abnormal things that normally shouldn't happen. Obviously, you'll have those talks on the sideline, but things that just happen, and and Sirianni's yelling at players for some, because of certain situations. It just really depends on the situation. When teams are playing bad and things happen on the sideline week to week, then it looks pretty bad. But obviously, if you're winning, it doesn't really matter, and if it's working, then who cares? But are the Eagles making enough changes this year? Okay, I think what we're gonna find out is it comes down to Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. I mean, this really goes down to, are we fixing the main problems? Okay, I'm already pissed off that you underutilized every player. Jalen Carter should have been Defensive Rookie of the Year this past year. Okay, I think he could have beat Will Anderson by 10 million miles, and he had 22 quarterback hits and 7 sacks, and he gets Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think that could have been easily beaten, and it's unfortunate. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate. I don't know how you hire your own coaching staff, and I don't know how you don't have a backup plan if things do start failing when it comes to play calling, or if you were this blind going to the season, which I think Nick was very blind last year going to last season because of all the success that he had with Shane Steichen in that offense. And on paper, I mean, yeah, you look fantastic, but it really shows you that you can have the best roster on paper, but if you can't put your final product on the field and make it look the way it should be, then it's a problem. I've never seen a team that's been so distant, especially from a coach, or at least what we've seen from, I don't know why these coaches, as of right now, between Doug and Nick, or why they would never hire new blood outside the organization. And I understand that Sean Desai was an outside hire, but he just wasn't good enough. He was an outside puppet that was used, unfortunately. Brian Johnson, a puppet. There was nobody that was in control besides Nick Sirianni. Hence why I'm not that happy that Nick is still the head coach, because why are you getting a salary as a coach, period? Okay, if you're just going to be a motivational speaker, and I guess that's all he's going to be going to this year. So I think Nick Sirianni has a lot to prove, but obviously Jeffrey Lurie had a plan to say, hey, Nick, if you don't fire your own coaching staff, that's it. Like, you're out the door. And not even 2 days later, after that meeting, a couple days after, he started firing his own coaching staff. We knew Desai was out of the building. He was already kind of out anyway. But I've never seen a team switch coordinators and really play even worse. And the coaching is worse. Nobody's getting reprimanded on the field. There's no accountability. Your practices don't change. The way you practice does not change at all. Matt Patricia's defense gives up 27 plus to Desai's 22. Your tackling looks bad. You can't stunt. You play. I mean, I don't know. It was such a headache every single week to feel like there was a little bit of hope every single week. It's not fair that the players only have so much control. They get excited for practice every single week, and you keep setting these guys up to fail every single week. And I think the players were so lost at that point where they really gave themselves really no choice but to feel positive during the week, and practice has been good and we've been playing well this week during practice. But you get to these games, an offense scores on your defense, and I feel like how the Eagles answered was pretty much done. Okay, they were not answering, they were not resilient anymore, they weren't fighting back in games anymore, and this coaching staff and this, at least the ownership, especially even with Jeffrey Lurie, not even really Jeffrey Lurie, but Howie Roseman watching this whole thing unveil. Was there any pushback from Nick? Was Howie Roseman pressuring Nick to change things offensively, to change things defensively? Because you think this defense is not on Nick Sirianni. It is. He brought the same scheme that I guess Jonathan Gannon had in 22. But if you remember, Jonathan Gannon comes with the Cardinals to Lincoln Financial Field, and we see a totally different Jonathan Gannon that we've never seen. An aggressive Jonathan Gannon getting constant pressure on us. Then you look at our 70-sack season in 22, and you say to yourselves, damn, like, we weren't even that aggressive that year, and look what we did, but our defensive line hit home almost the whole year. So now we kind of know who has had their hands on the play calling. And I think with Vic Fangio coming in, a lot of things do change. Nick hasn't had any control, and Nick has had no control in, picking his coaches. He's had no control over hires because the hirings have been god-awful. And no fundamentals, no strategy, no changes during the year. And the Eagles have been like this all year. It really was just, when were the Eagles going to fall? When were the Eagles, you know what I mean? Like, you can get away with winning in these comeback games in the second half for 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it is. But sooner or later, it's going to end. Sooner or later, teams are going to figure you out. And teams did. The outside noise because the Eagles were playing close games and the Eagles weren't getting respect last year, that they were frauds. This is one of the biggest downfalls. This is in the history books for the Philadelphia Eagles. Nick Sirianni making himself, as much as he's taking a bullet for a lot of his players on the field, us fans weren't looking at the players. We were looking more at the coaches more than anything. Yeah, the players, but the coaches have control on how they practice, how they, strategize every single week for Sunday. Nick Sirianni making himself look stupid at the press conferences, saying, we've been practicing like this. We've been using the same of what we've been using the last 3 years. It's like, no, dude, you have not. Your golden goose and Shane Steichen leaves and is successful with the Colts. Okay, successful with the Colts with a backup quarterback. It shows. And Nick took it into his own hands that, I could do this. I can run this. We can get back to this game. So he panicked and said, I need to get the guy that's closest to Vic Fangio. I need to get the same defense and kind of take over it a little bit and grab the closest guy that has worked with Vic Fangio, since Vic Fangio was supposed to be the hire this year, which he became the hire. Okay? Last year, he was supposed to be the hire. Last year, he was supposed to be the hire as our defensive coordinator. But unfortunately, Vic Fangio left a couple weeks before the Super Bowl in 22 because he thought that Gannon was going to get hired before this illegal tampering and all this crap came out on Jonathan Gannon. And we kind of got mad at Jonathan Gannon. And, I think, I'm not saying apologies are in order, but I think we were, blinded by what was really going on. And that was Nick kind of taking control over too much and having his hands on way too much. Let the coordinators be coordinators. At least if I know that the coordinator has 100% full control, I'll know that who am I blaming at the end of the day for how the players are playing on Sunday. And that's where it all comes down to. Okay. So the last bit of what's going on is this. You change your coaching staff. You're changing your positional coaches. If the Eagles fail this year, it's a bigger problem, and it's going to be Howie Roseman. If we go into a draft and we don't focus on certain positions, if this roster doesn't change, if you don't sign a linebacker to big money or safety, or I don't know, if you don't just at least pay attention to positions that really need to be paid attention towards. And I understand that we love trenches. I understand we love offensive line, defensive line. I get it. But if I don't see a change in giving more focal point to other positions, then I don't know. Then I think that we have a much bigger problem on our hands, and it's going to be Howie Roseman. Okay. You had a bad season last year. You had an embarrassing season on national television. I mean, you had to the national media, to all the fans, you made this team look like, what are the Eagles? Who are they? What is their identity? We couldn't even figure it out during the year because the Eagles never had a dominating game. There wasn't one game the Eagles dominated. The Eagles were fighting in every single game. And I said, there's no way they could do this all year. There's no way that this can last. We're looking for that dominating game. We always say a win is a win, but you can't win like that every single week, the whole entire season. The good thing about it is that we've been in these situations before with these second half comebacks. We've been in these situations. So if time persists where you're down a touchdown with 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, then great. The Eagles have been here before. This is nothing. This isn't new. The Eagles can win games like that. And Jalen Hurts has done it over and over again. And yes, there's a lot of blame to go around with the players too, but look at how they're coached every single week. Look at the positions that they're in. You know what I mean? So there's a lot here. And honestly, with Covey's statement, I get it. And I think there was a lot of finger pointing within the coaching staff, at least within the players. I mean, probably. There's probably things behind the scenes. There's probably like, maybe some players not having arguments, but at least having like a difference on what's going on. I mean, the last game of the season before we played the Giants that week, the last game of the regular season, AJ Brown had a big meeting he had multiple meetings with the players all week and trying to tell the players, hey, we need to believe in our coaching staff. It really starts to show you, especially from this statement connected to that now, that a lot of players were jumping off the wagon, not believing in what Nick was bringing to the table. And the thing is, like, dude, if you're promised every week that it's going to get better, and then Nick tries to uplift you every single week as a player that plays for the Philadelphia Eagles on this roster every week, and nothing is changing, how are you going to feel? You're going to feel betrayed. You're going to feel like you're lied to, and you're going to lose trust over the decision-making, the team, the front office, the head coach especially. Everybody is going to start to give up because I did not get how every other team in the league makes changes. The Bills made changes to offensive coordinator, became a better team. The Bears made a change at defensive coordinator and got better. We looked worse than the Bears, dude. That's how bad. The Bears looked bad beginning of the season, and they actually started playing better later on. The Eagles we were winning games off of other mistakes. I mean, realistically, a win is a win, but honestly, when you look back at it, how many games that we should have lost because of drops, opposing teams' drops that were wide open. And I understand that these things happen. Like, yeah, of course, when mistakes are made by teams, the other team takes advantage of it. That's true. But when you really think about it, yeah, the Eagles probably should have lost a good amount of those games last year. Let's be realistic here. Okay? But the Eagles were able to win, and that was a great thing. This doesn't discredit. I'm not discrediting what the Eagles have done. I'm not discrediting what Jalen Hurts has done, especially. Because, man, without him, you're not winning those games. Without A.J. Brown, you're not winning those games. Without DeAndre Swift, when they ran with him at times, you're not winning those games. But I am praying to God that Kellen Moore, I hope and I know and I hope and I pray and I say, please, God, I hope things change. A wasted year. Yeah, the Eagles needed a rebuild fully in the coaching staff, no doubt. Players needs a retool. But you go through the first 6 games of this season in 2024, and I don't even, and I feel we're gonna know how much Nick's handprint, fingerprints are all over this offense. I don't think it's going to be not that much. He might try to incorporate some things, but Kellen Moore, you're not just bringing Kellen Moore for ideas. You're bringing Kellen Moore for the prime job of changing this offense entirely and letting him have some control over it. Don't give me this, we're bringing in a guy for new ideas to help you out. No, we're bringing him in, and you're going to stay the fuck out of it. Simple as that. And defensively, I expect Jordan Davis to have a big year, going back to a nose tackle. I expect Jalen Carter to have a big year because that was fucking awful. Reddick should have been more productive. The linebackers were just nimble to nothing. Zach Cunningham being the best linebacker out of a really bad group. Corners playing off the ball. Corners not playing well. Bradbury's horrible. Slay with his stupid excuses. Tired of him already. Switching guys at safety constantly. Switching guys at nickel corner. Liabilities with Avonte Maddox. Zach McPherson. It's all got to change. And this is one of the most important free agencies. One of the most important drafts. One of the most important. It's time to change things. And I'm hoping that's the case because of it was I know I'm not surprised over how passive the Eagles were the last 7 games of the season. I wasn't shocked over it. Something was happening behind the scenes. I get it. listening to the outside noise, and that's what happened, and that was it. But if you're not playing well every week and you're losing consistent games, your head coach is trying to hype you up every single week. Even watching those Eagles vids of Nick Sirianni talking to the players in these meetings, and it's like, how do you believe a word that he says when like the coaching doesn't change? There's no adjustments. You can't even play situational football on both sides. I've never seen a team players get away with so much shit on the field and not get yelled at for it or not get reprimanded for it. I mean, there's a big in the Eagles gym, and they're at the NovaCare complex. The big word that's on one of their walls says accountability. And when the fuck did I see that this year? I don't think one time. So that's all I got to say regarding this team. And, this wasn't a crazy video today, but I kind of want to get this off my chest because I thought it was really important. And I'm kind of done talking about last year, but when more news comes out on this, it just makes sense. And Covey, I don't think he's lying. I think he's one of the most truthful guys. I don't see why he would lie about it, So that's all I got to say. Let me know what you guys think. I know it was a long rant, but it was very interesting. There's no excuses this year. That's why I was critical. I said after that, if the Eagles lost against the Cowboys, after the 49ers lost, if the Eagles lose against the Cowboys, I'm going to turn to a different fan that probably a lot of people aren't going to like. And a lot of people didn't like me at all, But there you go. That's what happened to us. And, I'm not going to be like, oh, I have hope they're going to win every single week. I'm not going to do it. If I feel like they're going to lose, they're going to lose. If I feel like that there's no hope at all, it's always nice to have hope, but you could see it within the players' faces. You could see it within their body language. You could see the sense of urgency. You could see if they're hyped up. You could see if they're actually fighting, if they're playing at 100%. You could see it. It's not hard to watch. It's not hard to not see. You could see that from a mile away. So, hope these changes make a difference. All these coaching changes that we're all like, oh my God, look at this one and this one's hired. I really hope that this makes a difference, because if it doesn't, then we're in bigger trouble than possible. So, yeah, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys on the next one. Remember, shakes what up, falls off. Peace out, guys. Peace.